Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Veglahn, land manager here at Wehr Nature Center. Thank you so much for joining. Today, I am very excited to talk about uh, the land management activities happening at Wehr Nature Center. First of all, I want to say, what is cherishing community conservation to me? It is understanding that there is a rich history of land management work that's happening here. We are not the first ones to come in and do the work, but we are just one piece of the puzzle. There's been many people and many, many hours of, of volunteers and staff doing the work on the land. And then ultimately, it takes a community to restore the land, and it takes a community to make a really large impact on the land. And that's what we are here to celebrate today. We are here to celebrate the community of individuals that have been a part of caring for the land here at Wehr Nature Center. So, a few things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be discussing the philosophy of habitat restoration. I'm going to unroll our restoration and management plan that I've been working on for Weir Nature Center. And then we're going to talk about some of the completed projects and planned projects that we uh, have going on. But first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jeff Veglahn. Uh, this is my family. That's my wife, Beth, and my 3-year-old son, Zion. So many of our activities and so many of our family plans revolve around being outside. We try to get to as many state parks or state natural areas as we can, county parks included. And really, we focus our family vacations around these natural areas. Me personally, my big hobby is fly fishing. I learned, or I should say, I taught myself fly fishing about uh, 15 years ago after my father-in-law passed away. It was a way that I could connect with him after he left, and now I've been doing it ever since. So, what is my role as a land manager? Being a land manager is two parts. It is the day-to-day land management activity. So, it's removing the invasive plants, it's monitoring uh, the invasive and the native plants on the land, it's monitoring the trails and working on erosion control. It's working with volunteers and other corporate groups. But then being a land manager is also looking into the future and planning. So it's trying to find funding or writing grants, help assisting writing grants to accomplish some of the work that we are doing here on the land. It's supervising interns, it's supervising capstone uh, groups that are with area universities. It's short-term planning of what am I going to do this year. It's long-term planning. What am I going to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years? When I first started here at Weir Nature Center in early May, May 1st of this year, I was blown away with the beauty of this place. This is a really special place within Milwaukee County, especially within the Milwaukee County parks. Uh, the the number of plants that we have here is unbelievable. We have a diversity of native plants that really isn't found anywhere else in Milwaukee County, or if it is, it's very, very few places. My other impression was there is a really strong volunteer group here. There's a lot of people that are connected to the land. They might not even be volunteers, they might just be walking the trails, but there is a strong community support of Weir Nature Center. Some of the things that have impressed me have been the plants. Like I said, there's so much diversity here. This is just a few of the flowers and plants that I've seen just this year. This is Michigan lily. We have purple and white prairie clover found in the prairie. This is prairie blazing star. This is ghost pipe, which is found in our woodlands. This is a large flowered false foxglove. This is also found in our prairie. Here's a gray tree frog that was hanging out with me one morning on the Kawasaki as started it up this morning. Fringed gentian is so prevalent here. This is the morning when I was just walking the trails and looking for down trees after a storm and the beauty of the sun coming through the trees. Again, same walk, looking for down trees and the sun on the waterfall. Everyone comes to comes to look at the waterfall. It's beautiful. And then this is black cohosh, another woodland plant. But this is just a small sample of the beauty that's found here at Wehr. So the meat of the presentation, the philosophy behind habitat restoration. How am I actually doing the work that I'm doing? How am I planning? How am I prioritizing? There's a few ways that we look at it. One way that we look at it is keeping nice areas nice. So this is areas that have very little invasive species. There's good structure of native diversity, so good biodiversity on the ground layer. Maybe there's really good shrub layer or shrub sub-canopy, which are shorter trees, and then a good structure of canopies if it's in a wooded area. And then there's also high impact areas. These areas are typically smaller in size, smaller in acreage, infested with invasive species such as common buckthorn, but can make a really high impact after it's cleared out. This is something that is usually very visible to the public, and you can make a statement really quickly. Think of the area around the observation blind. And then how do we prioritize when we're going to work, where we're going to work? And a lot of that has to do with identifying the areas that are already nice, identifying high impact areas, but also identifying areas that are feasible and accessible to volunteers, because a lot of the work that I'm doing revolves around the support of volunteers. There's no way that I can manage 220 acres by myself. So identifying areas that are accessible to volunteers, so we're not walking for half an hour just to get to a work site and then only working for an hour and then having to walk back for half hour during a 2 hour volunteer time slot. So one of the things that I've been working on since May is updating our habitat and restoration management plan. There is a document here that has been guiding the work of land managers. That last document was made in 2002, so we're going on 20 plus years. And that is a really, really long time in the land management world. So much can change between decades to decades. Instances happen. So it's really important that we update the management plan here for Wehr Nature Center. Land management plans are the overarching document that guides all the land management work on the land. So it is going to give you some historical background information. It's going to give you some relevant information of when the land was established as a county park, for example, It's going to give relevant information on the history of the land, but it's going to also uh, give a building block of the work that's going forward. So it's going to talk about the native plant communities that are found here. It's going to give benchmarks and goals for short term, long term. It's going to have maps. It's going to have species lists for all of the plant communities. So really, it's a document that you can hand off to a land manager, and they'll have a pretty good idea of the work that has happened and the work that should happen in various areas. So this is the management plan that I've been writing over the last 5 months, 4 or 5 months. A lot of it had to do with researching the work that already happened, figuring out what has changed from the 2002 land management plan to now, because maybe what was planned in 2002 has changed so much that we need to change direction going forward for the next 10 years. It's talking to quite a few people. It's talking to staff and volunteers and people who are connected to Wehr about how they feel about the land, because I just started here. I don't have a personal relationship with the land yet, but all of you folks, the whole community of Wehr Nature Center has a personal connection to the land. So I wanted to get that input into this document as well. Here's the table of contents. So one thing uh, that I'm talking about in this document are our current ecological threats. What areas have invasive species? What areas don't have invasive species? What type of invasives do we have? Is there any erosion? We are pretty aware of the areas of erosion. It's talking about all of the different plant communities found in Wehr Nature Center. And then this document is going to have a 10-year vision. So the vision for Wehr Nature Center for the next 10 years is to focus and be intentional with the land management activities happening. That is what I'm hoping to accomplish here in the next 10 years. And then the document is going to have all of the management units within our 220 acres. So this is just the start of it. We actually have 23 units, so 1 through 23. Each one of those will have an overview of what that unit is, what type of plant community it is, the health of that unit. It's also going to give goals and objectives for 10 years and 10 plus years. Here's another page. I think it's really important to state that that we are not the owners of the land, but having a land acknowledgement statement saying that there have been people here long before Europeans came. And there have been people here caring for the land, taking care of the land, and we're just stewards of that. And then some descriptions of plant communities and giving an overview of the plants and wildlife that we have here. So, like I said, my 10-year vision is to establish focus management efforts. There's been a time where there wasn't any land manager here at Wehr Nature Center. Because of that, other staff were taking on land management efforts on top of already what they were doing. And whenever you put more on your plate and not take something off, you don't do anything excellently. You can do a lot of things good, but you can't do one thing excellently. And when you also have multiple people doing the work, you can go in multiple directions. So I'm hoping as the land manager here to focus the management efforts and be really uh, efficient with the areas that we're working on. I want to start concentrating the work closer to the center and having high value management areas get worked on first. These are the areas when you're first coming up, you're going to see them, they're front and center. And the other thing is, I want to help build and strengthen partnerships. There's such a good community of volunteers here, but I think there's room to grow. I also think there's room to expand outside of the volunteer base and into grants or into corporate groups or working with area universities a little bit closer. So some of the areas that I'm going to be working on are broken down into the keeping nice areas nice and high impact areas. Some of the nice areas that we're working on are the ephemeral pond and southern dry mesic forest, the oak opening and our prairie, southern mesic and dry mesic forests of west of the center, our beach prairie, which is along the Yellow Trail right next to Mallard Lake. And then some of our high impact areas, again, areas that are infested with invasives and small, is the southern floodplain forest, which is formerly called the Test Corners Creek Corridor, the area from the waterfall to College Avenue. The wet prairie and shrub car around the observation line. This used to be an ash swamp, but because of the dead ash trees and no canopy cover, we're going to turn it into a wet prairie and shrub car and a little mesic remnant prairie that's found on the south side of our property. Now, there's probably some terms here that you haven't seen before, such as mesic, dry mesic. So mesic or dry mesic, that's referring to the moisture level. When you look at a plant community, you can have a dry or a xeric plant community. Those are dry, usually sandy. Think of Southwest Wisconsin. Mesic is middle moisture. This is a pretty large variety of plants. You can go from dry mesic to wet mesic, but it's the middle of the road moisture level. And then on the other extreme, it's the wet or floodplain. Those are plants that do really, really well in either standing water or saturated waters, really saturated soils, really wet loving. And then remnant, a remnant prairie is a prairie that, or an area, I should say, because you can have remnant prairies, you can have remnant forests. A remnant is an area that hasn't been disturbed by development or farming or logging. So to have potentially a remnant site within Wehr Nature Center is really, really special. All those are words. They don't really make sense unless you're looking at a map. So let's look at a map. This is the area of management that Wehr Nature Center has. It's 220 acres. On the top of the map is College Avenue. South or the bottom of the map is Rawson Road. Each of those colored blobs are various units. So I have 23 management units broken up. Management units are just an easy way for a land manager to focus their efforts and to be a little bit more precise on their management planning. That is where we are. That's the Nature Center right now. And that is the legend for all of the plant communities that we have, or all the units, I should say. This is a zoomed up area of right around the center and the northern part of Wehr Nature Center, because this is the area that I'm focusing on the most. So again, that's where we are. This is the ephemeral pond and southern mesic forest that we're going to be focusing on. These two arrows are the oak savanna and the prairie. And then this is the southern mesic and southern dry mesic forest to the west of the center. And that is where the beach prairie is. Now, some of the high impact areas, this is the southern floodplain forest or Test Corners Creek corridor. This is the wet prairie and shrub carr plant communities. Oh, I forgot to say shrub carr is a shrub thicket that you would find in a wetland area. So they're dominated by willows, dogwoods, and it really is a great habitat for migratory birds because it gives good structure for nesting. But a lot of these shrubs are berry bearing or fruit bearing, so it's a good food source as well. And then that arrow going off the map, that is where the remnant prairie is, small remnant prairie. So what have I accomplished this year? Completed. I'll say that in quotations because so many times the work that we're doing never really is complete. It kind of keeps on going. But some of the things that we have worked on this year are clearing the shrubs and the invasives along the west side of the entrance road from College Avenue. We won the Sea Whisk Garlic Mustard Polathon. So Sea Whisk is the Southeastern Wisconsin Invasive Species Consortium. They are a group nonprofit that works with municipalities and nonprofits to educate and provide resources for invasive species management. Every year they have a competition of who can pull up the most garlic mustard and Dame's Rocket, and we won. We ended up pulling up about 4,200 pounds in a 2.5 month time period. Another thing that we worked on has been clearing invasive shrubs and vines around the observation blind. We've removed invasives and woody shrubs in the beach prairie to get that ready for a prescribed burn next year. And we have treated a patch of purple crown vetch in the prairie. That purple crown vetch invasive has been there for about 20 years. So it's going to take many, many years. Like I said, these are completed, quote unquote. So some of the pictures, this is the entrance going into Wehr Nature Center. You can see before, you couldn't really see in. After, you can actually see in to the woods, which has been really amazing. This is the beach prairie. Before I started, there's been thickets of buckthorn, thickets of shrubs right along the fence line. Afterwards, you can actually see. So the big pile to the left or on the left side, that's actually a brush pile. That's the amount of buckthorn and invasives we've pulled up. This is in the beach prairie, but looking towards the lake. This is the yellow trail. You literally can't see 5 feet past the fence line. And now you can see a lake. So what are some of the things that I hope to accomplish next year? I want to do, or we're scheduled to do, a prescribed burn in the oak savanna and our beach prairie this year. Of course, removing invasives is a big project, and that's going to be throughout the management units, especially the ones that I'm focusing on. I'm going to start releasing oaks in management units that aren't being focused on right now. And what releasing oaks means is you cut down everything underneath an oak tree to take away the competition for that oak to survive. Next year, I'm hoping to start cutting down some of the dead snakes around the observation blind to get that ready to become a wet prairie and a shrub carr. And then we're going to start an intense management of the southern floodplain forests. But like I said, this isn't possible without the support of volunteers. I'm just one person. It takes way more than just one person to manage 220 acres. This is a group that came out for the Garlic Mustard Pull-a-thon. This was a group from Aon, so I'm hoping to build more corporate groups, more corporate connections because they come out with 15 people and you can get a lot done with 15 people. This is my Wednesday morning Eco Warriors group. This is us cutting down buckthorn. They come out all year long. They are coming in hot weather, cold weather. It doesn't matter. They keep on coming. Same with Wheel and Chip. Uh, they're the group that take care of all the trails. They do all the wood chipping. Couldn't do that without them. This is Rich and his crew. They do an amazing job building the boardwalk. They built that amazing observation line. Not to mention, they're super fun to be around. So I like hanging out with them. And then again, another picture of Eco Warriors. But there are so many other volunteers that are connected outside of the work at the land, on the land. And it takes all of us. It really takes all of us to extend the mission, to make this place beautiful, to make this place welcoming. And we couldn't do it without you. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being here. And if you ever want to volunteer or volunteer more or tell someone to volunteer, you are more than